All right, so in this lecture, we're going to talk about taking the Mcat seriously. Now, this isn't the formal lecture where we cover all the details about the Mcat, but this is more of that introductory warning sign that you need to be very, very serious about the Mcat. As I've already alluded in previous lectures, this is a very important medical school statistic, and like I mentioned, the cornerstone of an applicant's basically entire application. So it's basically the score that's stamped on your forehead that everyone will see and kind of objectively verifies, what kind of a student you are. Because GPAs are important, but they're subject to a lot of variability, especially in the way you classify credits, what universities you attend. There might be different levels of rigor. So the MCAT serves as basically the only real objective measure of a student's, quality of, competitiveness for getting into medical school. So when it comes to the MCAT, a lot of studying and preparation. It's a test that's designed to be very difficult, and so it requires a lot of that prep work. And it's super, super important that you don't underestimate this test. So this is a time for me to share again my little story where I ended up taking the MCAT twice. And that's because the first time I thought, I'm a pharmacy student right now. I'm doing really well in pharmacy school. This is going to be such a breeze. It's going to be totally fine. And I kind of underestimated how challenging the test was actually going to be. And that subsequently resulted in a pretty poor percentile. I got a 497, which translates to about 38th percentile. Of course, I had to do a retake, and that added expenses and cost, and it made my life pretty miserable, I will say, having to basically spend an entire year of my life studying for the MCAT. Generally speaking, I recommend that people study about 4 to 5 months, depending on, how well you're doing with your courses, and I guess how well you're doing with practice exams. If you're doing really well, and you might be able to move it up or spend less time studying, versus if you're not doing very well, then you might have to extend it out a little bit longer. So, moral of the story is that you need to really, really take this seriously. And it serves as like the first thing that I think most applicants, especially non-traditionals, should consider taking before they kind of jump down the rabbit hole of the medical school application process. So important things to note. The test itself is only valid for 2 to 3 years. Some medical schools are a little more stringent on the time frame, so they might only take scores within 2 years. I haven't really come across any of those programs. I think the industry standard is 3. But that just goes to show that you can't really preemptively take it and then sit on this for several years before considering going to medical school. The medical school application process, as you know, is completed an entire year before you actually matriculate. So that's another important piece to keep in mind. So as a pharmacy student who is considering going to medical school, I usually recommend that you take it during your P2 or the P2 summer leading into your P3 year. So although that is your last summer officially, because after P3 year ends, you basically start P4 the next day with like clinical rotations. So this is pretty much the last opportunity that gives you enough time to actually prepare for the exam without like sacrificing your time during pharmacy school. This is when I took my first exam, was in my P2 to P3 year, during the summer, and I took it basically the first week of P3 year. The actual exam itself, and then didn't get my score for an entire month, which is standard. And then it obviously did not turn out well, so I was forced, because I wanted to apply to medical school and not have to take a gap year. I ended up having to take it the second semester of my P3 year again. So that's when I did my second attempt. So, I was studying during pharmacy school. It was not ideal. I was taking 22 credits at the time because I needed to get my prerequisites in for physics 2, which I hadn't taken as an undergrad because my program didn't require that. So, that's another story for another time, but I just wanted to basically, if you handle this appropriately, you don't underestimate it, and you tackle this exam with full energy and effort, then you will go so much further, and you won't have to deal with this headache for a long period of time. So do it right and don't underestimate it, is I guess the moral of the story here. And I think it's very easy for a lot of healthcare professionals like pharmacists to think that, I'm doing really well in my graduate education. This test should be easy. It's very, we overestimate our capabilities, because the test doesn't necessarily test you on clinical knowledge. It tests you on understanding the principles that are on the test itself. How well can you analyze or review abstract concepts? How quickly can you read a passage and pull out some literary device from a chapter? Oh, we're doing analytical research for, some biology benchwork project. How would you take that experiment and extrapolate it to something different? It's not asking you what kind of drugs, are used to treat hypertension. I wish that were the case, but that's not quite how it works. So as a pharmacy student who's taking it maybe a little bit further down the line, like in your P3 year, a lot of the courses that are foundational to the MCAT are not something you've taken in almost 5 years. Some of the biology principles that you've long forgotten are still showing up, and you're being tested on RNA and mRNA and Western blots and so on. So we'll have some more in-depth discussions about the MCAT later on in the MCAT chapter. But I just want to kind of put this fair warning out there that this is the real deal, so don't mess around with it. All right, and that's the end of this lecture.